Thank you, Rabbi. Good afternoon and welcome. We come here today because of a sad and awful situation going on in Ukraine today. We come here to stand in support and solidarity with the people of Ukraine. And as we do that, I want to thank United Interfaith Action, the Inter-Church Council of New Bedford, and the Greater Fall River Council of Churches for putting this walk together. And they chose the route and the day for a couple of reasons. One, today is May 1st. It's International Workers' Day. That's celebrated around the world. We know in our country Labor Day is the first Monday in September, but around the world, International Workers' Day, where we're called to pause and celebrate human rights and the rights of the workers. Also, we're beginning this walk at a church that has Polish roots, and we're going to end it at a church that has Ukrainian roots. Again, showing the symbolism of what's happening in Ukraine and how different people are responding. And today, at this parish, we're going to focus on some of the Polish response to that. I do want to acknowledge a couple of folks that are here with us today. That won't be speaking. Our district attorney, Tom Quinn, is here with us. We have different people from across the region as well. I want to thank our police department who is going to be leading us on the walk. And on that, just with the logistics, when we do finish the short program here, we're going to head out down to Winthrop Street and follow the lead of our police department. We're going to cross Plymouth Avenue, go down Globe Street, go down South Main Street to Rockland Street. We're going to walk by St. Stanislaus Church, where they'll be having some songs as we walk by, and other people will be joining the walk there. And then we'll end at St. John's Ukrainian Church on Center Street with a program and some speaking there. As we go through the walk, if you do not have a sunflower and would like one, we'll have someone handing them out at the end, as many as we have. And also, as we do go through the walk, we ask that we do it in a silent walk, remembering the situation and the suffering that is going on in Ukraine. And now, to begin our program, we're going to begin with a song. So, Shana.
Yeah. There's a power button here.
Right here?
Yeah. You probably know this song If I Had a Hammer, but I changed the word land to world because I wanted to make it international. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this wide world. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out warning, I'd hammer out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this world. A bell
Now the mayor of the city of Fall River, Mayor Paul Coogan.
Obviously, God is with Fall River today to give us a day like this. It's a great day for a walk, and it's great to have everybody out this afternoon. I have a proclamation that I just want to issue today. We ask the residents of Fall River to stand in solidarity with our Ukrainian community and the citizens of Ukraine who are defending themselves against an unprovoked and unjust invasion by the Russian Federation that began on February 23rd. That must have been a Russian. We ask the residents of Fall River to support all who are fighting for freedom and democracy in the Ukraine and remember the innocent lives that have already been lost. The invasion continues to inflict widespread destruction, suffering, and loss of life. This proclamation not only condemns the Russian Federation, but also commends the Ukrainians for continuing their fight for freedom. The city of Fall River stands in solidarity with the people of the Ukraine in their fight for freedom and applauds them for their strength, courage, bravery, and all citizens should express their support for those facing this unjustified attack on democracy and freedom today and every day of this conflict. We ask all the citizens of Fall River to keep President Zelensky and the people of Ukraine in their thoughts and especially in their prayers. I, Paul Coogan, Mayor of Fall River, do hereby proclaim May 1 Support for Ukraine Day. Thank you all very much, and I hope we enjoy the walk. Thank you. We'll give it to him after. You want to just walk out and give it to him?
And now our mayor is going to present the proclamation to Father Roman, the pastor emeritus of St. John's Ukrainian Catholic Church. Next, I'd like to call upon our state senator, Michael Rodriguez.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. That was very, very, very nice. And thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Cantor. And thank you, Father Rob, for opening your church and allowing us to gather here as we open our hearts and we open our thoughts and we open our prayers. And we go on this silent vigil march, thinking and praying for our brother and sisters in the Ukraine. And I want also to make an announcement that with the help of my colleagues, Representative Carol Fiola, Representative Paul Schmidt, Representative Alan Sylvia from Fall River, we were able to secure in the last budget $10 million to assist the Ukrainian refugees. So that we can open our doors, open our arms to welcome them, to provide clothing, to provide food, to provide housing, to provide diapers, to provide whatever is necessary as they have fled that atrocity that's happening in their homeland. We are all welcoming them with open arms. Thank you all, and God bless.
And I also do want to also present to Father Roman a resolution from our state representatives to the same effect, standing in solidarity with the Walk for Ukraine and our commitment to helping those around the world, from our state representative, Carol Fiola. Next, I'd like to call upon Joanna Barker, a member of the parish here at Blessed Trinity, who's been to Poland several times to speak about some of the efforts going on there.
Good afternoon, and welcome to all gathered here today in support of and in solidarity with the people of Ukraine. Over the past 2 months, we've been witness to tragedies and horror like most in our generation have never seen. Homes and hospitals turned to rubble overnight, families separated, displaced, and and scattered around Europe and the world, children orphaned with no home and no one to return to. These tragedies that we witness today on the news and on social media from a world away evoke memories of a time and a place that family and friends of many of those gathered here today would remember with heavy hearts, including my own grandparents and my own dad. Heavy hearts because yet again we see another peaceful, beautiful, and independent nation reduced to ashes. Our hearts, love, and prayers go out to the people of Ukraine. As Polish Americans, we see the images from Ukraine, and we can't help but relate in so many ways. We see Mariupol, and we remember Białystok. We see Kharkiv, and we remember Warsaw. And remembering our own history, we are determined to help those who are living the nightmare our families lived over 80 years ago. I have always been so proud to be a daughter of Polish immigrants and honored to call Poland my second home. I have never been more proud of my homeland as I have been over the past few months. We see the aid that Poland and so many other nations are providing the displaced of Ukraine on the news, but it is the stories from family and friends in Poland, the personal stories that are so uplifting. Over social media, I have seen cousins and friends in Poland go to the train station in Warsaw, leaving strollers, clothing, toys for children whose entire life had to be quickly packed into a tiny backpack that they could carry. Friends sending offers of homes for up to 12 people, including any family pets, which may have also made the journey. Offers of hot meals and free transportation to train stations across Europe have flooded these pages since the war began. All these acts of love and generosity are on a daily basis and keep multiplying. We see our sister parish of the Polish National Catholic Church outside of Kraków, Świętej Barbary, led by Father Budacz, which has turned into a center of mass distribution of clothing, food, personal hygiene products, and more for refugees crossing the border. Trucks from all over Poland and even Europe are on a daily basis bringing pallets of food and supplies and are always met with a smile and a thank you as the volunteers know that the need is great and unfortunately will only continue to grow. On an almost daily basis, Father Budacz will send a message on Facebook asking for an item which would have been impossible to cross the border with, such as a crib or a baby bathtub. And within hours, if not minutes, there is a reply that one has been sourced. This past week, to celebrate Easter in Ukraine, following a traditional mass said in Ukrainian, there was a picnic held for refugee families and volunteers, where local vendors brought bounce houses, popcorn, and cotton candy machines in order for these families who have been through so much to enjoy some laughter and much-needed fun. The parish also holds several Ukrainian language masses weekly for families to continue to be able to worship in their native language. Father Budacz, his parish, and community are truly God's work in action. In remembering and honoring their own history, the people of Poland have become a shining example of generosity, compassion, and love for the entire world to emulate. It is only natural for Poland to be being so deeply rooted and acutely aware of her own history that her people would reach out to their neighbors in their time of need. As today we see Mariupol shelled, just like Białystok, it will one day be reborn. And as we see Kharkiv attacked, like Warsaw, it too will rise again through God's grace and the perseverance of the Ukrainian people. We often hear that history repeats itself, and usually that phrase infers a negative connotation. And although we are seeing history repeat itself in the most cruel fashion at this moment in time, we will one day see that history come full circle with the liberation and rebuilding of Ukraine. As Poland celebrates her own Constitution Day this week, we hope and pray that Ukraine may soon yet again come to have their peace and independence among their nation. And as we look around today, a half a world away from Ukraine, let us not forget that despite our own different backgrounds and religions, we have gathered here today as one in solidarity with our friends in Ukraine. Our different backgrounds do not matter today, as we gather with a common purpose and belief. We believe that peace, through God's love, will prevail. Many of us who have gathered here today arrived as strangers, but we will leave today as friends and a community in support of Poland and in support of Ukraine. Thank you.
Now I'd like to call upon another parishioner of Blessed Trinity who's been to Poland many times, Jessica Miranda.
Prior to 2 months ago, you might be hard-pressed to find people who knew where Poland was, let alone where Ukraine or even Kiev was on a map. But for some of us, our eyes were glued to the news any way we could get it 2 months ago. I, for one, was stunned by what was being shown on my screen. Was this really happening? Immediately, my thoughts were, how could I help from thousands of miles away? Within a few short hours, I had received numerous text messages with web links on ways to support Polish organizations already ready to support the Ukrainians that were now arriving along the 332 miles that separate our two wonderful countries. For most, they cannot really comprehend what is taking place in that area of the world. Those of us with ties to these countries know all too well what this truly means. Growing up with strong Polish identity, I knew that my family came from the Rzeszów region of Poland, which is just less than an hour away from the Ukrainian border. I grew up knowing that life in the area during communist times were difficult for my relatives. My grandmother, or Babush as we called her, would tell us stories of our relatives there and how difficult it was for them to live in a country controlled by the former Soviet Union. Multiple times my family would box up items and ship them to our extended family in Poland to help make their lives just a little bit easier. Items like coffee, tea, sweets, especially chocolate, household items that we took for granted, like toilet paper and Band-Aids. As a child, it was just unbelievable that you would have to stand in line every month for your ration of chocolate. Can you believe being a kid and not being able to have your bag of chocolate or getting your favorite popular toy at a local toy store? The letter we would receive back from our family, didn't talk about their hardships, but instead always wished for our health, wealth, and happiness. Thankfully, we, along with the world in 1989, saw that what many Polish people knew, that civil disobedience can bring and will bring about change. After the fall of communism, we hoped never to see a country deprived of their independence, especially any country that was under the former control of the Soviet Union. 10 years later, after the fall of communism, I had the opportunity to spend my summers in Poland and to see with my eyes all the stories that I was told growing up. One could see that the older generation having a harder time adjusting to life, while the younger generation kept embracing it with open arms. The older generation knew how to speak German and Russian, while the youth couldn't wait to practice their English as a native speaker. I was fortunate enough to be able to teach nearly 500 Polish children English as a second language multiple times during my summer, from the north of the country all the way to the mountains in the south and even the capital of Warsaw. These youth, ranging from elementary to high school, were so eager to learn from us and know what life was like. I spent many 4th of July with these kids, and they would explain to me and my fellow teachers what independence and freedom really means in their eyes. From these kids, there was always a recurring message, and that we must learn from the past and never let history repeat itself. Those youth that I helped to educate years ago are now today's young adults that are living by those words and helping to ensure they do their part and make their voices heard and be the faces we are seeing on the news protesting the atrocities that are taking place just to the east of their country. Those of us with ties to these two countries all know all too well what is at stake here. These young adults who were the last generation to live under communist rule know all too well what they and their families had to endure. They have shown the world how to be a citizen of the world. Through today's digital world, I have seen their efforts with helping and aiding those affected by the horrors of this war. I have seen them organizing marches and attending rallies to show everyone that it is not okay to take away a country's independence, and they refuse to sit back and be silent. Some have driven to the border to bring much-needed supplies to those mothers and children who left with little more than a suitcase and a favorite toy. Others have opened their doors to their homes to what were strangers, and when they had an empty bed or a spare room. Some even have tried warming the bellies of those displaced by canning jars of homemade soup to hand out and create soup pantries. while others have volunteered their time at local bus and train stations or refugee centers, providing resources to those whose lives have been turned upside down. Their quickness to respond and willingness to help should be an example for all of us here and the world to emulate. Sadly, we know this will not be over tomorrow, for some will be affected for the rest of their lives by these events. Let's stand in strength and solidarity with them today and to the last. Slava Ukraine.
Let us now pause for a moment of prayer. God, as we gather this day in support of the people of Ukraine, undergoing such suffering, violence, death, and destruction, we know you are with those enduring the horrors of war, and we pray that peace and justice will prevail. We are thankful for those helping to aid the suffering and the injured, both physically and emotionally, for those who are welcoming and providing for the refugees. As we prepare for this walk in solidarity with the people of Ukraine, inspire us to continue to act to support them in their time of great need through our prayer and through our action, with our time, our talent, and our donations, that we may act to help in various ways to ease the misery, suffering, and despair of those who are experiencing this unjust war. Let us now pause and remember the thousands of innocent lives lost in Ukraine. For these lives lost and all that we have prayed for, this we ask in your holy name. Amen.